They did the background checks, but I'm more concerned about the front ground checks. Like, they didn't even do the front ground. Like, you scrolling through social media, it's like just one swipe, boom. These people would not be allowed to have youth calling.
And all of a sudden, your teenager is deep into sex therapy talk on their phones, and where are you?
It feels like I am going to be emotionally blackmailed. If I really love my child, I would accept their choices.
It's MLM disguised as sex therapy in the true Utah spirit.
And now for a cultural call-out. We sure don't appreciate that.
Welcome back to Salty Saints. My name is Hayden Holm. Today I'm joined by my brother Tanner, and we've got our special guest Tember Hardward back with us to talk about a cultural call-out, GFY. That's right, I did not stutter. Unlike a CEO at a Coldplay concert, I did not slip up. GFY, not EFY. So we're talking about Gather's version of EFY, and that's why we brought Tember Hardward to come talk with us today. But before we get into GFY, I want to talk about EFY. Let's talk about it for a little bit. What is EFY? What is the purpose of EFY? And what are some of the takeaways that youth get from EFY? But they call it FSY now. But back in my day, it was EFY.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Tanner, what do you remember from EFY?
I remember as a youth, all the other guys who got to go. I did not go. Personally, I didn't have the interest for it. But I remember a lot of the young men, 90% of the conversation around it was about how hot the girls were there. And 10% was, oh yeah, and I felt the spirit once or twice, and that was cool. You know, it was all about the dances, how you could get creative around sneaking away from the chaperones, and the occasional testimony was shared. I'm not a huge fan of EF4. I know a lot of people have had like really good experiences there. But from my perspective, that's the bulk of what I think happens there. It's just a lot of teenagers experiencing a lot of hormones and a lot of mentors trying to shove a spiritual message into that tornado, you know? So I don't know if it's my favorite thing, but it's there. And
obviously, you're a little salty.
A lot of people. A little salty.
I remember.
For sure. Yeah.
I mean, we never went to EFY. Like, that was the rich kid thing to do. I think it was a little bit more expensive back in the day. So the rich kids would go, they would come back and they would just talk about their cows. Their crush of the week is what they would call them. You know, so they're like, oh, I got my cow, you know.
Hold on. Like, that's I never heard them called cows.
You didn't hear
that's
that?
Rough. No.
Yeah, no, it was a thing. It was a thing. They would talk about their cows, and then they would have these like terrible intro lines that they would drop on you. So you'd get both boys and girls that would just randomly come up to you and ask like, what color's your toothbrush? And you're like, what's the matter with you, kid? All right, can't you just say hi like a normal person? This is why the brethren think we're weird, you know? This is why they have to keep saying normal and natural, because of things like EFY. But saltiness aside, I will say, there are some good things that can come out of EFY. And I didn't realize it until I went on my mission. So I served in Paraguay, and out there they had EFY, the youth all around the stake in the area that I was serving, and they were super excited about it. They went out to EFY. They had an amazing time. They came back, and they were telling me like, oh man, I'm going to go on a mission. I found some really great friends that I'm communicating with on Facebook. I've got a girlfriend that I'm writing. That's great. She's an active member of the church, and she wants me to go on a mission, and that's a big reason why I want to go on a mission. And so I saw in Paraguay, I was like, I get it. This is a great way for active LDS youth to be surrounded by fantastic role models, make great friends, and to build testimony. In Utah, I mean, being surrounded by LDS people is something that just happens every day. So every day is EFY, you know, and so that's why I didn't understand it. I was like, why would we even, you know? But I get it in Paraguay. I get it in countries where there aren't that many members of the church, and these youth were on a track to probably not serve a mission, marry someone outside of the church, and probably end up leaving the faith later on. So I think it does serve a purpose. In Utah, it's a little bit gray area, but overall, I think it's a fantastic experience. Also, I will say this. So the elder that I trained on my mission, great kid, Idahoan farm boy, fantastic worker. He told me begrudgingly that he got his testimony from EFY. He was like, it was stupid. I hated it. I had a terrible time. but I also got my testimony there. So I was like, okay, it can't be all that bad. I know you and I,
yeah.
it wasn't our cup of tea, maybe, or should I say it wasn't our cup of soda, but I get it. There are some people out there that really enjoy it. And I think it does serve a good purpose for the youth. So
I've been to
if
worse.
I had to go
I've
ahead.
been to worse, just so you know. Like I never went to EFY, but I definitely went to a Christian camp thing that's like similar to EFY. And I can tell you, pastors trying to rap to be cool for the kids, like Christian rap,
No.
not cool.
Yeah,
that's
you end up
so
doing more
bad.
damage than good. Yeah.
But there's some good messages still, So yeah, you can out of the awkwardness and the cringiness, you can get some good spiritual moments. So
Yeah.
That's funny.
If I were to distill it into like three main pillars, the three main purposes of EFY, I would say that the first is probably to strengthen your testimony in the Savior. The second is to surround you with role models. And then the third is to help you make good friends. What would you say to that? Do you see that's pretty fair?
Oh yeah, I think that's definitely fair. I think that's exactly the intent there.
yeah.
Awesome. So with that understanding, let's now look at GFY through the role model of the teachings. Is it bringing you closer to the Savior? What are the role models that they're surrounding you with? And what kind of friends are you going to be making? So to help us with all this, I made a little bit of a presentation. I took a leaf out of Tember's book and I was like, let's get some slides. Let's get those up there. All right.
We like our slides.
Oh yeah.
We do. All right, let's get to the first slide. Here we go. This is how Gather is being marketed right now. So if you look at the website right there, you can see the mission statement, who they're appealing to. So Tanner, if you want to read that little purple line right there.
Oh, like it's Elders Quorum. Yeah, you betcha.
Just like Elders Quorum, yeah. Also, it's super small on my screen. I can't see it.
And you bear your testimony when you're done too.
Yeah,
that's right.
I'll let you know what I think about it.
Yeah.
Since its creation in 2024, Gather for Youth, GFY, is a Christ-centered support for Latter-day Saint LGBTQ youth 14 to 18. Youth allies 14 to 18 are also welcome to participate.
Okay, interesting. So we've got specifically LDS, LGBTQ youth, 14 to 18, and then allies. So it's focused on two targets. I would say it's primarily focused on LDS youth. If you click that, the first box right there, with the Relief Society sister, that looks like she just baked you a nice casserole. This is the marketing material for GFY.
From the very beginning, Lift and Love has been about strengthening Latter-day Saint families with LGBTQ kids of all ages and strengthening the entire family's relationship to the Savior. That's why Gather Conference created the Gather Parents Breakout and Gather for Youth. We're thrilled to announce that Gather for Youth is back and it's better than ever. This year, both teens and parents will be learning tools for navigating the complexities of our time. Real world, real practical ideas that will help you to navigate tricky situations in your family, your communities, and in your religious communities like our wards and states. Parents, we listen to your feedback and we have created opportunities for you and your kids to learn together. To the youth, as always, Gather will be a safe space to be really honest about your experiences and your dreams. We've got new music, inspiring lessons, and we've planned a great mix of downtime to chill, opportunities to hang with your new and old friends, and some time to learn alongside your parents. Plus, we've got activities and singing and dancing and some crazy surprises. It's going to be an inspiring, uplifting, and amazing event. And I can't wait to see all of you at the Gather Conference, June 27th in Provo, Utah.
Great. All right, first impressions. Tanner and Tember, what do you think? We'll start with Tember. Like, if you were just to see that, let's just say you are viewing this through the lens of like an active LDS parent who has a youth that currently is grappling with same-sex attraction. And you're like, I need some resources here. You're potentially looking for additional resources and you're saying, okay, I stumbled on this. What is your initial reaction?
Honestly, if I was going into this without any like former knowledge about the organization, I would probably think this would be a great opportunity for my kids, hopefully to be open with my kids and see what their point of view is and see maybe how I can support them better. And it does sound faith affirming, and yeah, I don't know, that's my honest first takes. Um
Yeah, Tanner, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm interested to learn more about the crazy surprises they have planned. And she mentioned that a
Yeah.
couple times, so I wonder what that.
Well, she looks just like your average Relief Society president. You know, she
Yeah.
sounded nice. Did you see the background? Did you see any rainbow flags or paraphernalia in the background?
I
didn't.
didn't catch
Like
anything.
it seemed
Very
like it was just
milquetoast,
all
yeah.
like very Deseret Book kind of background. She was smiling. She was spirit voice whisper smiling the whole time, you know, and she was reading from a teleprompter. It sounded just like something at a general conference, right?
It sounded like
So
something like the Young Women's Presidency would put out
Yeah.
on their Instagram.
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's very nice, it's soft spoken. She's smiling as she
Mhm.
speaks, you know, and she
We're going to
speaks
be
with I don't know if
navigating
this,
our faith issues.
right. I don't know if
Yeah.
this is just a Utah thing or not, but like there's like this wince that that sisters will do when they talk to you. Sometimes they'll be like, "How are you?" You know, like they're already anticipating empathy for some reason. It's kind of weird, but there's this
Yeah.
wince. So she was wincing the whole
Mhm.
time. She was like, "Oh, we're gonna get together and have a wonderful
Yeah.
time to hang and chill with friends." It sounds straight out of the church to me, at least.
Yeah.
Having been raised in the church, I was like, yeah, no red flags there. So let's get back to the slides. So there's that, and then the other one there. This is the other leader, the main leader over the youth, David Smurthwaite. At least I believe he's the main leader. He mentions in this post that he's excited
the
to
face
help
of it.
lead. Yeah, and he has like a lot of fun stickers and emojis and stuff like that are popping up. And he basically says the theme for Gather is going to be perfect love casteth out fear. And so the theme is all about understanding how to perfectly love yourself, how to perfectly love other people, and I think how to feel perfect love from Heavenly Father. You look at a message like that and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, nothing to see here. Just an average church conference right there. Tanner's getting emotional already.
Yep, it's either allergies or I'm feeling the perfect love right now. You know,
Yeah.
it's one of those.
Yeah. Yeah. Before this call, Tanner mentioned that he's been struggling with some allergy problems. So we'll give him some grace on that.
Does
So,
the spirit give
cry.
you itchy eyes too?
Oh yeah,
That's right. It was that spirit voice. Look at that. She just like boom,
she
right
got
to the
me.
feels.
She got me right in the heart, dude. Yep.
She got you good.
Got me
Yeah. So let's say you're an active parent and you're like, okay, great. I'm sold. I register my kid. Boom. That's it. Let's get into the FAQs. That's the next slide. These are the FAQs. There are a couple lines in here that I want to point out real quick. So the first one, does GFY endorse church participation? The Gather Conference is a Christ-centered gathering of souls with varying relationships with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, including those who are very active members, those who have complicated relationships with religion, and those who no longer participate in church. All are welcome and equally valued. Any red flags? Any issues with that? No?
No.
Nothing yet?
No.
We have this other line right here. At Gather, all journeys are honored and no single path is proposed as the right way. GFY embodies the same spirit. Although everything we do is centered on Christ, our only objective as leaders and volunteers is to help your youth feel seen, heard, and honored in their spiritual journey. So wait a second here. They're targeting LDS youth, and then they dropped that line in there. That was that one line that was kind of
That there's
buried
no right
mid-paragraph. There's no right way, you know? So it's interesting to me, like, that they're targeting LDS youth and then saying, like, yeah, we don't really believe that there's, like, a right way to live your life. It's like, well, then why are you targeting LDS youth specifically?
Yeah.
You know? That raised a question to my mind, at least. That question, I was like, seems a little weird.
Yeah,
and then
that just to add a little
keep
commentary
going.
on that, it's like I get it. everyone's faith journey is going to be a little bit different, and it's not, we don't all have the same journey. However, there is a right way to live the gospel, right?
Right.
So, yeah. I mean,
There's a guy who
have
talks about that a
commandments.
lot. Yeah.
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 Yeah, right. Narrow is the way and wide is the, well, narrow is the way that leads to eternal life and wide is the way that leads to destruction. You know, I wonder who said that.
How dare you? You can't bring that up. Not a Gather.
Sorry.
But here's the thing. Yeah. So the thing is, it depends on your definition of right. If we go by the Old Testament, like the Hebrew for right was tzedek, which basically meant morally in line with God's purposes. And I look at that and I'm like, okay, so if they have that same definition of right, then that leaves me a little bit concerned as an active LDS parent. Because this is 2025. I'm not going to say that like no parent. I mean, I have young kids. I have a lot of young kids, and I am fully aware that one of my children might struggle with same-sex attraction, and that might be something that is a very real factor in my life. So I'm trying to approach this from a lens from my future self and saying, okay, what if I one day eventually have to navigate these waters?
Right.
There's this other FAQ. Who is running GFY? GFY is a Gather-sponsored program and is organized by a number of adults and young adults who embody the GFY 2020 theme, Perfect Love Casteth Out Fear. All of our leaders and volunteers actively participate in the LGBTQIA+ space, whether that be as an open community member, parent, mentor, or ally. As a policy, Gather runs background checks on all leaders and volunteers involved with GFY. At no time are youth alone with any leader, and youth will have appropriate adult supervision at all times. Okay? And then it sends you to the Gather team where you can learn more about the Gather team. The average parent might not make it to this page because I had to actively look for the FAQ page. It wasn't just straight off of the homepage. The average parent may or may not look at these points. They might just skip straight to registration, register. Let's look into what activities, what does the schedule look like? The next slide will give us a little indicator on that. Right here, yeah. So you look at this, nothing really stands out. You have like prayer, you've got some meditation with sound bowls, and then you have Kristen Hodson speaking about how to shine brightly. That sounds great. That sounds uplifting. That sounds wholesome. You have group breakouts, button making, that's fun, bracelet making, you have workshops over here, dinner, lip sync battles. Like it just looks like just a bunch of fun, right?
First of all, lip sync battles are dangerously close to rapping, like Tember said earlier. So like they're already on the edge with this.
We're getting into the cringe territory. Yeah,
it's rough. That is a fine line to walk. So they did make the right. I will commend them on choosing a lip sync battle because that's gonna go over way better than any rapping. So they kudos to them. They crossed that bridge a little bit more delicately than most people do.
Yeah,
that's true.
The thing here for me is like looking over this, just going to different conferences. Usually they have like a theme that you're going to go over. I don't see much of that. I mean, navigating daily life in the community. Okay, so what does that mean? It doesn't look like there's much like, how to serve God but still like struggling with your experience or whatever, it doesn't look like there's much of that on here, like as far as like it being like faith centered,
like the testimony piece. Like if one of the core pillars of EFY or FSY is to strengthen your testimony and to give you kind of devotional opportunities, I don't really see a whole lot of opportunities here, and maybe I'm missing it. I could very well be missing it. Like it might be buried in here, but this is like Workshop A, Cade, gay, and his ally sister, Elizabeth, navigating life at home. It's like, where's the theme about connecting to Christ, and like the perfect love that Christ has?
Yeah.
Just a
there
little
was
clarifier. Hayden did not add the gay emphasis there. It's actually written into the.
it's written. Yeah. No, that's not me. That's not hate speech over here. Yeah. Before you break out the pitchforks.
I thought you were just saying
there's
this
like
was a lame presentation.
That's how we used it back in the day. But
You just dissing Cade like that, dude. Come on.
that was written right into the activity,
like that Korean
right into
actor.
the title of the workshop. There.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah. So then they have like I don't see, they have some names down here like Scott Baldwin, Allison Stewart. Not 100% sure who they are. And then you have Scott Mena. There's an acting workshop. There's a lot of like crafts, like pictures, buttons, bracelets, and not a whole lot else. And so it's kind of interesting to me. Like I didn't see, like if we are going to grade this on those 3 pillars of like FSY, I'm not really seeing like the devotional faith building content here. But it very well could be buried in like Scott Baldwin or Allison Stewart. I don't know what they're presenting on. But as a parent, I would like to know that stuff. So let's now go to the second pillar of role models. Let's talk the role models. So if you go down here, this is stuff that probably isn't going to be shown on their website, but I did a little bit of digging. And so your kid, if they signed up for GFY this past June 2025 for their second version, then they came across these characters. These are the leaders, GFY and presenters. So on the left-hand side, this is the guy hosting the acting workshop. So this guy, they call him Theater Guy, and that is just right on his social media. This is him performing at a drag show. And he actually was stripping at that drag show and taking money from the guests there. So that was a little concerning. Like as a parent, I don't care.
I don't think he was actually like completely stripping, but some clothes did come off for sure.
They
no. It was like his suit jacket. Like I don't want to make this. Okay. I don't want to sensationalize that. Yeah.
But it's still stripping.
Gotta clarify.
I've been to drag shows before. I know what they're like because I used to go to gay clubs.
Yeah.
So they usually never strip down, but they do strip their clothes off and they take money like a stripper. So even at the family friendly ones,
it doesn't go over well.
That they do in Provo that are for the kids, they still do like a light version of stripping essentially. So yeah, it's conditioning kids to accept that that's normal.
Yeah, I don't see how you get around that, to be honest. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off, Hayden. Keep going.
No, yeah. So we have that guy on the very left. So he's going to teach your kids how to act in that acting workshop. And then you have the person in the middle. This is the first presenter. So the one in this schedule who's going to teach your kids how to shine brightly, which sounds pretty banal. Like that. Yeah, that sounds great. Awesome. So these two right here down in the middle, this is from her Instagram. So she is a sex therapist. And this is kind of her Instagram talking about kind of women and pleasure. And then right over here, you can see if any youth start following her, they're going to get some of her posts on their feed. And she is selling a lot of adult toys. So I don't know about you, but this is looking at this. I, as an active, faithful LDS parent of LDS youth, don't know that I would be 100% comfortable with like these kind of things being around my youth. And then you have, speaking about like all of these posts down here where it's just MLM. It's MLM disguised as sex therapy, but in the true Utah spirit. It's just all MLM. It's all the way down.
Well, and this goes exactly with what Tember was saying in our last video about how these people sex therapy has an important role someplace, right? These people have every right to be these, with their personalities, do whatever they want. And they come together, and I'm sure they can put on a great conference that can bring the spirit. Just like Ben Shalati and other people can go to a fireside and bring the spirit and talk about wholesome things. But I think what happens there is that, you can go to these conferences, you can meet and build relationships with these people, these leaders, and then your son or daughter can go and follow them online and get sucked into a rabbit hole of a dangerous algorithm, right? Because if you start following a sex therapist, what are you telling the algorithm, right? That you're ready to talk about sex all the time, right? That's what the algorithm is going to learn from you. And all of a sudden, you're a teenager who is going to a conference to learn how to be an ally for LGBTQ members, is deep into sex therapy talk on their phones. And where are you? Do you know if that's happening or not? How are you handling those conversations?
Well, it's also like
Right. And so that's the really disturbing part. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it's like I just don't know what place a sex therapist has. Like, what kind of expertise are you bringing to a youth conference? Like, if you're a family therapist and like you have experience with um navigating these journeys between parents and children, and that's what you're going to come present on, is how we can address these issues in a charitable Christian way, that's great. But a sex therapist, what exactly are you bringing to this conversation? And like, don't get me wrong, like I'm all about healthy discussion around our genitalia with and teaching our kids the correct terminology and stuff, but that's something between you and your parents and what you should be getting from them, not some professional coming to a LDS themed conference. But I'm sure she's not talking about that there, but at the same time, like you said, that's what the kids are going to be drawn to, is if they decide to go to her social media after this, that's what they're going to be brought into.
Right.
100%.
And I'm glad you brought that point up. I'm glad I'm not the only one that thinks that maybe grouping kids based off of their perceived sexual preferences at the ages of like 14 to 18 may not be a great idea. You know, like that idea of like, hey, you know, the most hormonally charged period of your life, let's run a conference. Let's just grab all these people, put them in the same room together. Let's get a sex therapist and let's just talk about all of this stuff. You know, and it's just like, wait a second.
Yeah. I mean, hormones
she might have a great discount sale, you know, or something going on. It seems like she's trying to eventually get these people in her pipeline, you know. Maybe that's just a little skeptical of me. That maybe I'm making assumptions here, but it doesn't seem like it's the best idea to put a sex therapist in front of a bunch of hormonally charged youth.
Oh, 100%. This also stands for FSY, right? For the regular FSY experience. I don't think we should be mingling the sexes there. I don't know. What I really want is I want to cancel GFY and FSY. I want all the youth to go on their spirit walks in the mountains, you know, give them a tarp, a rope, and a box of matches and go find God in the wilderness. That's what I think. I think life is too easy. I think they need a harder experience to find God instead of these manufactured, like, because that's what these things are, right? It's just it's a place where they're trying to manufacture a spiritual experience sometimes, right? They put them all together and they try to foster, and sometimes it works really well. I don't see this working as well, given the speakers that are happening here, or being as Christ focused and having the impact they're looking to have. I don't know. I could be terribly off on that.
That's a hot take. That's a very hot take. I will push back a little bit. I do think there is some good. I've seen some good come from like FSY, but overall, I do agree that I think the youth would benefit more from having more high adventures than more FSY experiences. 100%.
Burn it all down. Kick him out. Go to the wilderness.
Get rid of it. Toss it out. We don't like it.
Right.
This last piece right here. So this is David Smurthwaite. So he is one of the main leaders of GFY. This is someone that was on the main marketing materials at the very beginning. So he was one of the faces of GFY. You couldn't really see it from the main video that he put out because there were a lot of emojis kind of covering his hands, but they did have some like nail polish on it. So he does, I guess, identify as transgender. I believe he's married and has 5 kids.
No, he's non-binary, so he doesn't fall into either male or female. That's what he claims.
So that's what non-binary means. Is that right?
Non-binary is that like you are neither male or female.
Which isn't a binary in of itself, because you're either binary or non-binary. So So that's not
Interesting.
helpful.
Right.
But
So there's some
Yeah.
some binary inception going on there. A binary within a binary.
sorry,
Yeah.
that
Okay.
always just gets me. Yeah.
Hmm.
Totally
Interesting.
relevant. Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, so he was, from what I could see from the marketing materials, is leading kind of that discussion on how to love yourself perfectly, how to receive perfect love from other people, and then how to practice perfect love, is what they were saying. So I was like, I'm not sure what they mean, and that's the dangerous part. Is like, it all sounds great, but what do you mean by perfect love? Uh, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Let's talk about friends real quick, because let's get at the third pillar. So these are the role models that they are going to surround your youth with. These are people that they could connect with. They could connect with afterwards, and then they will start getting these posts, these very posts, in their feed. And these posts, more times than not, are going to lead to more questions. It doesn't seem like they're leading to more faith, more testimony, and greater levels of discipleship. So let's talk about the friends. In every piece of marketing material that I saw, it mentioned that GFY is specifically geared towards LDS youth ages 14 to 18, as well as allies. And there were some different iterations that I saw, but front center on the homepage of the website, as well as in their marketing materials, like that post right there, it mentions allies, and it talks about how they actively are looking for not only LDS youth, but a separate category altogether of allies. So that led me to a question: what does it mean to be an ally?
This one's kind of tough for me because you're either an ally or you're not, right? And if you're not an ally, then you are an enemy, I guess, is the implication there. Because by definition of, being
So this just
an
took a very
ally-
Star Warsy turn. Is that right?
Yeah, well, it kind of feels like that, because like to say that you're an ally means that you're friends with them, but to say that you're not
Right.
an ally, what does that mean? Can you be neutral? I feel like this polarizes people, this kind of language. I don't know how
Right.
to solve that, because I understand what they're trying to communicate. Like, we want people who are supportive of what? Of the cause, of the person. What does that look like? If you're a friend, you're a friend of that person. If you're an ally, I feel like you're an ally in some sort of movement or conflict. It has a more militarized, charge to it.
Right. And I started looking as hard as I could. I was just like, what does this actually mean to be an ally? And I got a ton of different responses. There was no like concrete definition of what it means to be an ally. A handful of what I saw was that it means that you are a visible supporter. So I took that little screenshot there. For this website that I found, it was at the top of search. It just said being an ally means that you're showing up to events. So you're going to rallies, events, you're calling out homophobia, transphobia, or queerphobia wherever you see it, and supporting businesses, charities, or other initiatives owned or operated by LGBTQIA plus people. My question, and hopefully Tember jumps back in for this, but my question to you is, where's the line between being an ally and being an activist for the LGBTQIA plus movement?
Well, shoot, if this is the definition that we're going off of, which I think you took a layman's approach of just Googling it and finding it. So I think that's a fair definition to go off of. If that's the case, then you are by definition, I mean, ally and activists are synonymous at that point. If you're going to rallies and events, you're calling out any like oppositional viewpoints as homophobia, transphobia, or queerphobia, wherever you see it, and you openly support businesses of those people, which I also feel like everyone, outside of going to rallies and events, everyone in this, video is technically an ally, because I don't think any of us would stand for homophobia, transphobia, or queerphobia and would call that out, because that's what Christ would do. You call out any form of hatred and try to replace it with some sort of, mercy and compassion like Christ did when he was on earth. So I think, it's really loaded language, and it gets into like a really tough place of like, where do you stand with your beliefs and what kind of friction is caused by these conversations. So that's interesting.
Well, I would say for most people, there isn't a line. It's if you're an ally, you advocate for those lifestyles and those choices, and you are an activist. But I mean, there are people who call themselves allies who are just basically a support system, which is,
Right.
there's nothing wrong with that. All of us should be able to support people without um bringing in our biases and without judgment. you know we all need that depending on what our struggles are. So
Right.
if that's what you mean by ally, great. But in all honesty, the vast majority of people who claim to be allies, what they're saying is that I support your decision to gay date and to gender transition, and I'm going to support you in that fully, and advocate for your decision, essentially.
It's interesting. It mentions like being a visible supporter. It was talking about wearing your support. And then you go back to like that activity. So if I'm this average active LDS parent that is hoping for an active LDS youth, and they're going in there and they're making buttons and they're making wristbands and they're surrounded by allies who are quasi soft activists. Could we say soft activists? Would that be fair?
I mean, in terms of leadership there and those speakers?
I'm saying in terms of friends, because they're targeting LDS youth and allies. And so if they're
Yeah.
targeting allies, so they're surrounding youth with allies, with people who are visible supporters of the LGBTQIA plus community. And they're saying, all right, these are people that are going to educate you. These are people that are going to help you learn the talking points of the party. They're people that are going to help you understand the agenda of the party and the community. It doesn't necessarily seem like FSY as much, where FSY is trying to surround you with good friends that are focused on the Savior and trying to become a better disciple of Jesus Christ.
Well, honestly, I think a lot of these getting people to be allies, a lot of it is honestly emotional blackmail, especially for like vulnerable parents who are like, my child has been struggling with these things. I want to show them that I love them. Like, I don't want and then you sometimes get these mental health professionals who come in and say, yeah, would you rather have a gay son or a trans son or a dead son? And it's like, well, in order for you to be a good parent and support your child, you need to advocate for their decision and support them, or else they're going to commit suicide. So some of it, and honestly, I've seen this happen in quote unquote LDS settings where mental health professionals have come in and basically said that. So some of it is honestly like emotional blackmail like that.
Yeah. So you're
Oh,
saying
yeah.
like LDS therapists, like LDS family
Yes.
services?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that, or like look at like Julie Hanks or Lisa Tensmeyer Hansen, who's also been involved with Gather. Is they bring in these mental health professionals who essentially say what I just said.
Right.
And so what is the parent to do? Oh, I don't want my child to commit suicide, so I'm going to allow him or her to transition or, date the same sex, and I can't say anything about it because then they're going to be institutionalized or something.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that they're pointing like a rainbow gun at your head, and they're saying like, hey, make your choice. What do you want? And it's like, oh, that's a tough place for a
Yeah.
parent to be in. Like
Mhm.
and this like parents right now are at the forefront of something that we didn't really have to grow up with too much. Like we didn't experience this as much as youth. The LGBT movement, the community, it wasn't as large when we were young, or maybe we were just oblivious to it. But it seems like it is everywhere now. And so it is something that parents, especially millennial parents, are having to grapple with. And I like that you point that out. Like, it is tough being a millennial parent, grappling with this and saying, this is a struggle that my child might have to live with. And
Yeah.
you are potentially going to be met with people that say, like, hey, if you want to be a good parent, then you got to do things the way that I say. And if you don't, then if they commit suicide, that's 100% on you, you know?
Yeah. Well, and then they're guilt tripped into, oh, you're not being charitable. You're not showing Christ-like love. And
Right. The
that's
perfect
what
love. The perfect love.
that's
Yeah.
exactly. Well, that's what worries me about this messaging, is because I know underneath this, it sounds great, that we do need to show perfect love. We do need to show charity to one another, but it's weaponized to
Yeah. And
tell
Tanner, do you want
parents
to
that they're,
scroll to the next slide?
it's
Yeah,
weaponized
sorry to cut
that.
you off, but you're hitting it right perfectly right now. Yeah.
Oh no, you're good. Segue. Um, it's weaponized against parents who maybe they do have more orthodox views, but they seriously don't know what to do about their child. And so they're said, well, if you perfectly love your child, you're going to support them in their decisions and
Right.
condone their behavior. So
Let's figure that out. Let's take a deep dive. Get your waders on. We're going to take a deep dive into the scriptures and figure out what did they mean when they said perfect love in the scriptures, and is that what is being meant at Gather? So, perfect love. So this is John. So 1 John chapter 4 verses 16 through 19. It says, "And we have known and believed the love that God hath to us." So God for us. God is love, and he that dwelleth in love dwelleth in God, and God in him. So if you love God, then God will dwell in your heart. Herein is our love made perfect, that we may have boldness in the day of judgment, because as he is, so are we in this world. So we can become as he is. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear, because fear hath torment. He that feareth is not made perfect in love. We love him because he first loved us. So it's really interesting. If you look at the Greek word used for perfect, so perfect love, the Greek for perfect was teleos. It was the same word that was used that said, like, be ye perfect as my Father in heaven is perfect. And so what do they mean by teleos? That means to be whole or to be complete. And so just like God is whole and complete, which does not necessarily mean a love that is unconditional. So a whole or a complete person is someone who has completely bridled the natural man. It is a completely disciplined love. It is a completely integrated love. And so a perfect love is a love that is disciplined. It is within the bounds of covenants, is how I would describe it. It is completely contained in covenantal love as prescribed by God. And so that is perfect love. And who do you have it for? Well, you have it for God. It is a love for God. And it's followed up in 19 it says, we love him because he first loved us. And so the perfect love is our love towards God. It's the discipled love. It is the integrated love that helps us to become more disciplined, that helps us to become a better disciple, and that helps us to contain and bridle the natural man.
I'm going to push back on just one thing that you said, where
Go
you
for
said it's not unconditional. I would say
it.
perfect love isn't, it is unconditional. However, unconditional doesn't mean I condone sinful behavior. And so I'm going to go back to the definition. I'm going to 1 Corinthians 13, and I'm going to read out of just a little context. In 1 Corinthians 13, in the Bible, the word translated as charity is agape. All right. And agape is
And that is
the
unconditional. That's unconditional love. Yeah.
agape love is most predominantly associated with love between God for man and man for God, right? So it's the highest form of love, right? And so in this, when I say love, it's translated from agape. So, and I'm reading from the NASB translation, by the way. And I'm sorry to all you King James Bible people, um, but it says, "Love is patient, love is kind, it is not jealous, love does not brag, it is not arrogant, it does not act disgracefully, it does not seek its own benefit, it is not provoked, it does not keep an account of wrong suffered, it does." Here's the key part: it does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices in the truth. Right? It keeps every confidence, it believes all things, it hopes all things, it endures all things. But I think it in this case where we're told to have perfect love and to develop this charity for all people, and including our children, it can't, weaponizing it to say that we should use it, that this perfect love can only be exhibited if we condone uh, all our children's actions, is just totally inconsistent with scripture. Because perfect love, this charity, this agape love, it does not rejoice in unrighteousness, it rejoices in the truth. And the truth of the matter is that same-sex sexual relations are inconsistent with God's plan, and so is gender transitioning. And so we can have perfect love, we can be perfectly charitable without condoning all of our children's actions. And so, okay, I'll get off my soapbox. There you go.
No, I love that.
No,
I
I thought
love
that
that.
was
And
very well
go ahead,
put.
Tanner.
Yeah. I was gonna say that was just beautifully put. Yeah,
That
great
was really
job.
well put. I like that you brought up charity. I think one of the definitions of charity that we use in the church is, the pure love of Christ. And I think a lot of times, culturally at least, I grew up understanding like, oh, that's the love that Christ feels for all of his children, and so we should try and develop that. As I've gotten older, I've realized that I think another way to interpret the pure love of Christ is actually the pure love that a person has for Christ, because that is going to be a transformational love. That is going to be the love that takes you from a natural man and turns you into a disciple that
Right,
sticks with Christ for the rest of your life.
and
It's
that's
the
what
pure love
motivates
of
all of our
Christ, for Christ.
actions. Yeah,
Right,
and it
right.
motivates all of our actions, right?
I think we could just replace that perfect love with charity, or the pure love that we have for Christ. And that is what is going to motivate us. So that is what casts out fear. So President Nelson said, "It is mentally rigorous to rivet your thoughts on the Savior, but when you do, your doubts and fears flee." It was something, I'm paraphrasing, but it was something more or less along those lines. And so I think that's what it's talking about. It's our love for Christ. As we focused on Christ, fears vanish from us, because we know that no matter what happens, the great mediator is going to be with us. We have a great high priest who is going to speak on our behalf. And so as long as we love him and allow that love to transform us into better disciples, then it will cast out all fear, similar to President Nelson on that burning plane, because we will be 100% ready to meet our maker no matter what happens. And so I think that is what the verse is getting at. I don't know that it's necessarily exactly what you were saying, like, oh, we need to perfectly accept all of your actions.
Right.
If you like doing something X, Y, or Z, if you like deviating from this commandment, then we are going to accept that and just love that for what it is. I don't think that's anywhere in the Bible.
No, and it goes back to the thing, it's a common phrase. It's, "Oh, well, I just want you to be happy. As long as you're happy, then I will support you in that." And it's like, no, no, because there are different types of happiness. Some happiness is motivated by the Spirit and is constantly undergirding us, vis-a-vis the spirit, right? But then there's most happiness out there is temporary, and it's based off of worldly pleasures that only satisfy temporarily. So no, I don't want you
Right.
just to be happy. I want your happiness to be based off of things of eternal consequence.
Well,
So
and this is coming from the same author that said, if your hand offends you, cut it off. Like if
yeah,
your eye offends you, pluck it out.
yeah,
Like he does not condone sin. He loves
right,
the sinner, but not the
right.
sin. That old cliche. We'll bring it back to a
Oh
cliche.
yeah.
Well, if you were a true ally, Hayden, you wouldn't say that because that's
That's
hurtful.
right. Well,
Darn it.
here's me being ignorant again. I'm just an LDS father, trying to navigate his way through life. As you guys think about everything that you've seen through this presentation, all these slides, all this information, if you were an average dad that saw that marketing material and then just registered your youth, I think you are signing yourself up for more heartache and struggle. Your youth would have a greater opportunity to make friends with allies and to start following all of these role models, just like what we talked about in the last one, who are going to give them these rainbow colored breadcrumbs that lead them to the gingerbread house where they eat them, where they're just like,
Yeah,
boom, gotcha. You're now one of
yeah,
us.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that any of these leaders, when met out in the wild, wonderful people, it seems, just from what I know. They look like they're awesome people. They look like they are kind. Just from the personas I've seen online and from the interactions, they seem kind and delightful people. In their own spheres, they can do whatever they so please. Totally fine with that. My perspective. I think FSY and GFY should just go away. I think both of them should. I think they
Right.
should both.
Make high adventure great for everybody.
Exactly. Make life harder for teenagers. They need harder lives, just across the board. But the real question is, I just don't see a value in a church centered or church themed event that also focuses on your sexual identity for anyone, gay, not gay, straight. I don't see the value for it. I also don't see the value for having FSY. But at the end of the day, when it comes to having this gather conference, what is the ultimate goal? Can that goal be accomplished in the already existing FSY program, which I believe it can, right? Which is bringing youth together to feel camaraderie, build friendships, and focus on Christ. I feel like we already have a program for that. So creating this new one seems at best redundant, and at worst, feels like it's communicating ulterior messages or motives, in its presentation.
Mm.
All right, Tember, what are your thoughts?
It feels like I am going to be uh, emotionally blackmailed into being told that if I really love my child, I would accept their choices. Just because I've seen that happen time and time again. I think that's really I don't like that love is weaponized in that way and misinterpreted. Um, really, it's a wresting of the scriptures, WREST, of the
Right.
scriptures, and where people are twisting them for their agenda. And of course, they wouldn't say that. They're just saying, "Oh, we're just trying to spread love and unity." And but to them, unity isn't in Christ and in his doctrine. It's in um it's being spinelessly permissive of people's choices um that are going to give them temporary fulfillment. And so anyway, I could rant about that for a while, but yeah,
Yeah,
that's essentially how I feel about it.
I got you. Well, I tell you, for me, the main problem that I have with GFY is their marketing efforts. So it seems like they're marketing one way, and what they're delivering you is something completely different. So, like, you did not see the sex therapist in the marketing materials. Like, you didn't see the man performing at the drag show in the marketing materials. You didn't see the man wearing the dress in the marketing materials, and you are specifically targeting LDS youth, but preaching a message that is completely contrary to the doctrine of the church.
Right.
And so that is the main problem I have with it. Like, if you want to have your own, like, LGBTQI plus community event that targets youth, I mean, I personally might have some issues with that, but you know what? No harm, no foul, as long as you are marketing it correctly.
Yeah.
Like, if parents out there are saying, like, this is what I want, great, go for it. But if you are targeting LDS youth, these are very impressionable youth, and you are saying, you know what? Let's get them in front of all of these different people. Let's surround them with allies. Let's surround them with role models that they might follow on social media after, and then get sent messages of, like, adult toys and drag queens and all this stuff. And it's like, wait a second. At a certain point, it feels like this is doing more damage than good if your definition of good is keeping youth on the covenant path.
Yeah.
And so that's the main problem that I have with GFY.
Yeah.
So for that reason, that is why they are part of our cultural call out today. I would say takeaway for the average LDS father, right? Because I think every LDS parent right now needs to be considering the possibility of their youth struggling with same-sex attraction as a disciple of Christ, and saying, how can I best support them? And how can I best help them? And I think, similar to what we talked about last time, there are Orthodox resources out there. Tember has done a great job of compiling all those. We'll probably put a link in the description on that. So you can go check those out. And I would say, do your research. So as a parent, as an average LDS dad, look into these speakers. Like, if there's a conference out there, even if it's not the Gather conference, GFY, if it's something else, go out there and look through the social media accounts on these speakers. You don't even have to look very far. I mean, these guys, they did the background checks, but I'm more concerned about the front ground checks. Like, they didn't even do the front ground. Like, you scrolling through social media, is like just one swipe, boom, you got all of these different things coming at you, and you're like, huh. I like, these people would not be allowed to have youth callings. I don't know if you understand that, like, a lot of these people, the church is so careful with who it allows the youth to be around. There always is going to be mistakes. There will always be mess ups, but more times than not, the church is incredibly concerned with the youth and surrounding them with positive, Orthodox, great Christian examples. And so, so if that's what you're hoping for, you will not get that from GFY. And that's why we're calling them out today.
Amen.
Okay. All right. So until next time, I'm Hayden Holm. This is Tanner. Tember Hardward. This is Salty Saints.